If you listen to the weather forecast, you would have stayed in your house all day, but I'm glad you're all very brave people here in Cleveland and are very used to this kind of weather. So thanks so much for making the trip out. My name is Dennis Kresak, and I'm very pleased to be here with all of you today. You know, every year this event brings us all together, fresh, both old and new. We come together to sustain a thriving and vibrant community. Now, this is our 10th annual Faces of Hope event, and for the past 10 years now, I've been very honored to have worked with all of you. Some of you in this room have been with us since the beginning. Others for nearly as long, and working with you through the years has been a very blessing to so many people in our community. And I know we wouldn't be here today without your support. As I look out over the room, I can't see a thing because that light's right in my eye. But I do see some new faces. So to our new friends in the room, I offer you my welcome. Thank you so much for being here today to share in this morning and every year that fills me with hope for the people we serve. Now, this has been a very exciting year of change for us. Just a few months ago, we became Volunteers of America of Ohio and Indiana, growing our services, expertise, and knowledge to create lasting change in more communities between both Ohio and Indiana. Now, this hasn't changed our mission one bit. We remain an organization committed and dedicated to reaching and uplifting all people who seek our help at our door. Our mission will continue to create more opportunities for people in need to reach their full potential. Now, throughout our history, Volunteers of America has been living a mission of service in each community where we work. We believe that everyone has dignity and self-worth and that their calls for help will be answered. We also believe that our work is a calling and that what we do makes a huge difference in the lives of those we serve. Here in Ohio, for example, we help veterans, families, single men and women with housing and supportive services. And we've been in this business for over 120 years, which is really an astounding fact when you really think about it. In Indiana, we also have state-of-the-art programs, many of which are also in Ohio, such as veteran services, residential reentry, homeless, and affordable housing, as well as mental health housing. Through our merger with Indiana, we've added some life-saving programs to the combined organization, addiction recovery and treatment for men and women, as well as mothers with young children. Our growth has been very rapid in the past few months. It's truly extraordinary how fast this has all happened. But there's one thing that remains constant, and that is you, our supporters. Each one of you in this room has been by our side each step of the way, evidenced by this morning's attendance here. You've been the support and guidance we've needed to take this big step of this merger. And you're behind each person's recovery, rehabilitation, and their achievement of well-being. And you remain at the heart of everything we do. And I truly do sincerely thank you for that. Now, last year I shared with you it was my 25th year as president and CEO of this organization. So as I begin this, my 26th year, I also begin a new role, and that role is titled CEO Emeritus for Volunteers of America, Ohio, and Indiana. Emeritus, that sounds pretty cool, huh? It reminds me of an old grizzled college professor, but I don't feel that way. In just a few minutes, I'll introduce you to Mr. John Von Arx, the new president and CEO of Volunteers of America, Ohio, and Indiana. But before I bring John up here, I wanted to share with you how much this organization means to me and how much you all mean to me. As my role changes and I work on projects with John to finish out the last of my few months, I often reflect on my journey with Volunteers of America. I'm also struck by how many people I've met through the years, and I think about how many lives we have touched. The numbers are really astounding. Tens of thousands of people have come through our doors, and with you by our side, we've been there, helping each person thrive and reach their full potential. I'm feeling very humbled and honored to have led such an amazing organization. My work here has led me to believe that there is innate goodness in all people, regardless of their status in life. My life has been enriched by all those who I've met through this work, and my hope is to continue to provide support and encouragement to people in need long after I leave Volunteers of America. Now, I do have one bit of exciting news for all of you. John and I are working to answer the housing needs here in Cleveland, in particular for veterans. We're planning to create a new permanent housing complex for veterans. Right now, we're actively exploring the community for the perfect location. And on top of that, we've also been working with community leaders to determine if we can provide housing for low-income seniors. And we'll keep you all updated in the coming months with progress. And sometimes that progress could mean 2 to 10 years, depending on how this all works out. But we'll let you know. Before I leave you, I'd like to thank all of you, our donors and supporters here in Cleveland. I especially would like to thank our staff who work every day making a difference in people's lives. I could not do this without them, and they really make me look good. For the clients in our programs who I've been privileged to have known, I want to express a sincere thanks for their resolve and perseverance in enriching their lives, and I know they've enriched mine. Today is no exception to my sense of pride. In just a little bit, you'll hear a truly remarkable story from Mr. Mike Bell. I'm so proud to be part of Mike's journey, and you all should be too, because with your support, he's able to stand here with all of us and share his story this morning. Now, I've reflected on the past, and now it's time to bring you into the future. But before I do that, I just want to express how sincerely appreciative I have been of this position I've been in. It gives me the opportunity to serve people, which I've always wanted to do. And it gives all of you the opportunity to do the same. And that's why you're here, I believe, to help us out, to help more people. So thank you for that. So at this point, I'd like to introduce to you Mr. John Von Arx, the new President and CEO of Volunteers of America of Ohio and Indiana. John and I have been working together to further the mission of Volunteers of America over this past year. And John will be sharing more with you about that expanded mission and his vision for the future. John, come on up.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Dennis. The great news is we're not going to let Dennis go very far, and we're going to keep him very busy. We're so appreciative of all that he's going to continue to do for this great organization. Well, good morning, everybody. It is a glorious morning inside, even though it might not be outside. We're so appreciative that you're all here, and I'm so fortunate to be here with you. I am so honored to be the CEO of this great organization. It's clear to me, at least, that in all my years of serving people in need, whether it was developing programs or writing policy or legislation, to the many years of direct service that I've had the privilege of working with children and families, I've been blessed that I think my career journey has helped prepare me for this role. As Dennis mentioned, many of you have been with us for quite some time, and And it's truly amazing to be here in this community where there's been such great support that we have here in Cleveland, and we can't thank you enough. I've enjoyed meeting many of you this morning, and I look forward to working with all of you in the future. And I am so humbled by your support and kindness that you've expressed this morning. Again, I cannot thank you enough. You know, one of the special things in my view of Volunteers of America is how we help each community in a unique way. Yep, we have a variety of programs all across the footprint of Ohio and Indiana and the major cities and provide a number of services there, but we don't bring programs in that are not needed or are duplicate programs to a community. We work within each community to determine what its special needs are, and we bring in programs to help those communities thrive. And I think we're very proud to have had that relationship here in Cleveland. Because of course here in Cleveland our work focuses on employment, housing, homeless services for veterans, and helping those who just need that extra help to get back on their feet. Because of course what our goal is to help them achieve well-being. We understand that as life happens, just in one moment, suddenly things can change. A job loss, increased housing expenses, a car breaking down, or unforeseen medical situations, all of which can alter someone's path to stability and well-being. And it's why these services are so important. Our goal is to help each person try to overcome that potentially destructive moment, and we want to help them rebuild and transition towards that well-being. I often think of the veterans that we serve, and in particular I think of the young men and women in their 20s, fresh out of the military. For some, their personal battles with life are just beginning. For others, it's learning to live with and manage their post-traumatic stress disorder or their addictions. And for many, it means they want to find a good job and safe housing. Oftentimes, as we welcome veterans into our program, we hear them say, today is the darkest day of their life, and they had nowhere else to turn. But as we see them leave our program, we know that they're leaving stronger and ready to live and lead a productive life, because they're leaving us filled with hope for their future. Throughout our programs, each person that we serve is helped because they have a community who believes in them. The young veteran with PTSD, the homeless man who can't find a job, the mother who is battling addiction and holding her infant so close, the family who is seeking shelter because they lost their home. They all had the help that they needed from Volunteers of America because of generous people like you. This commitment to our community and our fellow man, it's why we're all here this morning on this challenging day. It's what gets us up and out of bed. And all of us at Volunteers of America are so very proud to serve our clients. But it does take more than a program to change a life. It takes a community all pulling together as one. And we certainly do rely on people like you who give of their time and their talent and their financial resources. And as Dennis shared, through it all, many of you in this room have been right there by our side. And today we want you to see how you are such a big part of this story. Every day, a new veteran, man, woman, or family, they're knocking on our door and they're asking for help. And it means that we're serving more and more people every day, and that is our mission. But we believe that each person needs and desires the tools that we can provide to help them sustainably thrive. And that's exactly what each community desires. Because of course this is our community, and we won't thrive without working together and without your help. Each year we come together and ask that you look at the programs that Volunteers of America runs to help meet these needs. And this year is no exception. We need to close a large funding gap of $800,000 that remains after the support from government and the community partners. This investment is what can make a difference, however, because it's the love that we put into our programs to ensure that people are not just sheltered in Cleveland, that they're given the tools, access to the tools that they need to achieve that well-being. In all honesty, even as the economy recovers, the charitable sector is facing some very, very uncertain economic times. There's been widespread funding changes in cuts in mental health, in residential reentry, in veterans and housing services. And these cuts have affected health and human service dollars that normally go to support programs that we provide. Today, the burden that's being placed on charities like Volunteers of America to do more, but to do more with less. But I do know from personal experience that right here in this room is where we can make a difference and impact lives. And I ask you to help provide us the tools needed for every person at any age to have the opportunity to reach their full potential. And as I look to the future of our organization, I'm confident that we can continue to make the difference in the lives of others. We can be the change that our community needs, desires, and deserves. And we can continue this great legacy of service that Dennis has built and managed over these past 25 years, and I think we can all do it together. And that's why today your help is so vital. You are truly the key to helping more people here in Cleveland. So together, I hope that we can offer hope, restore dignity, and transform lives. Thank you so much for being here this morning.
A safe place, wrapping its arms around body and soul.
I lost all hope, but they loved me and they nurtured me.
A path leading to peace and well-being.
I learned that I do deserve better. I have big dreams that I want to accomplish.
A community nurturing the best within us all.
I never feel like anything is impossible.
Volunteers of America, we offer hope, restore dignity, transform lives.
They actually care. They care about my sobriety. They care about if I had a bad day. They just more or less care for your whole well-being.
Volunteers of America is strengthening our communities by providing the tools for individuals to rebuild their lives and reach their full potential.
My children and I, we ended up in a homeless shelter, and because my partner of 7 years, he died, and he left us in a motel room. We had nowhere else to go. It was our last string, so we went to a homeless shelter. Ended up getting partnered. I don't look at it as a sponsor because they're my partners. They help me do this stuff.
I got in touch with myself, I would say. The staff was excellent. I guess they just made me feel real special. And I appreciate that. They treated me with kid gloves.
For returning veterans, every day can be a struggle.
When I left the military, I was kind of lost. I didn't really know what was next. I didn't have a real set plan. What I had experienced in Iraq had a great toll on me.
I don't know if I've ever come back home yet. I still think I'm not here. But being in an environment with a lot of veterans is helping.
Since World War I, side by side with our community, Volunteers of America has served our nation's veterans, honoring their strength and sacrifices.
That was the smartest decision I ever made, was to ask for help from Volunteers of America. You know, that was the best thing I could ever did. Their whole thing is helping you.
Luckily, we have the VOA that is out there to kind of catch people from when they stumble. The VOA has put food in my belly, a roof over my head, a blanket, a bed to sleep in. This place will help you get your life back.
Our founder's legacy guides us to help ex-offenders achieve well-being so they can contribute to our community in meaningful ways.
They have programs here that can help you out. They can help you move forward into what you know you need, whether it be substance abuse problems, whether it be mental health problems, or financial problems. And it's been a lifesaver for me, literally.
A thriving community can offer new possibilities, new promise, but every day, communities big and small are facing new challenges.
Every day was the same. I'd wake up every morning needing to get high, wanting to get high, and going to bed every day, you know, same thing. It was chasing it just every single day, every week.
I started using meth up till I got pregnant, and I was using through my pregnancy.
As we confront the unrelenting opioid crisis, mothers and their children are getting a fresh start.
Having her with me at the VOA was honestly the best thing that they could have ever came up with. Like having her there, like seeing her every day while I'm going through recovery and knowing like I'm doing this for her. I have somebody that's motivating me was, I think, the best thing that could, because I don't know if I could have done it without her.
I want to be sober and be a better person for her and for me. It's definitely gave me a lot of motivation to do that.
One chance, one step, one person can change the course of a life forever. You make all the difference.
My mom was sad because she doesn't like living without a job or a place to stay. But Destiny, she helped us. She gave us a home to live in.
When I first was in the shelter, I did meet with Destiny with Volunteers of America. She was my advocate. The relationship that I had with her was very personal to me. I was just surprised. I just didn't think anybody would really be like that. I would consider myself as a number, you know, but she didn't treat me like that at all. And I just want to say thank you, Destiny, for helping me and my children.
As more and more Americans face uncertain tomorrows, Volunteers of America is committed to providing the programs and services that build strong and vibrant communities.
They actually gave me like the resources instead of me just being like thrown out there. They'll support you in your decision. They'll talk to you if you're not sure about something. They actually care about you. They want you to succeed in life. They want to watch you better yourself.
What I learned about myself from Volunteers of America is I'm strong. I have a lot of leadership qualities. I'm smarter than I give myself credit for. I believe if you do the right thing and you just ask for help if you really need it, good things will come.
It was the best thing I ever done.
Help begins from the heart. Healing begins with hope. And hope begins with you.
Hope is triumph. It's stepping over defeat. With hope, you know things can get better. Without it, you know, life can seem absolutely worthless.
My child gives me hope.
Everything seems so free out here, and that's how I feel now. Really free. It's like it has no boundaries. So as far as I can see, I just see open spaces and endless opportunities.
Good morning.
Morning.
Luke 14:48 says, "To whom much is given, much is required." I bet a lot of you have heard this verse before, and I never really understood what it meant until my experiences with Volunteers of America. My name is Mike Bell, and I'm a proud Army veteran and peer educator and a veterans program for Volunteers of America of Ohio and Indiana. My introduction to Volunteers of America wasn't as an employee. I'm like the men and women that you just saw in the video. But I'll get to that in a minute. My story actually begins in Jacksonville, Florida, where I was born on a naval base and both my parents were in the Navy. Anyways, by the time I was 9 years old, my parents had divorced and my mother moved me and my 2 siblings to Dayton, Ohio. I would love to tell you I had an ideal childhood, but that wouldn't be true. My mother, now single, had 3 children to raise on her own. She also was a caretaker to several of our aging relatives in our extended family. Because she was so busy, I had free reign to run the streets, and I did. I started hanging out with an older crowd and began drinking and smoking. By the time I was a teenager, I was an expert partier and a petty criminal, and eventually I dropped out of high school. I just kept on floating through life. I had a series of odd jobs with no real direction. I had no purpose and was falling deeper into my vices. When I was 19, I needed to do something different to change my life. I joined the Army. Becoming a soldier molded me into a man. It taught me discipline, teamwork, how to depend on others, how to work toward a common goal. And my first duty station was in Schofield Barracks, Hawaii, and I must admit being stationed in Hawaii was amazing for me. I was in the Army for 5 years before I went back home to Dayton to help take care of my mother who was having difficulty. I did the best I could to help my mother financially and emotionally and to be there for her. I got my GED while I was enlisted, so when I came home I enrolled in the local community college. Later I became a student at Central State University and studied business management. I was doing well. I was sober, in school, I had my own apartment, and I was able to distance myself from the unhealthy relationships of my past. I was focused. I had only 1 year left in college, and I dropped out because my wife at the time and I became pregnant. I had planned on re-enrolling, but life happened and I had a family to think about. Eventually, my wife and I divorced, and that sent me into what I know now was a deep depression. All I could think about was how I grew up in a broken home and how I didn't want that life for my children, and I sunk deeper. I fell back into my old habits and I began to self-medicate again just to feel normal, and I threw myself into my work. I was functioning, but I was empty. Over the next few years, I worked a series of jobs that always seemed to fall through or not work out. Plants relocating, companies downsizing, companies closing. Eventually, I made my way to Columbus to live with my brother, and after a while living with him, that was no longer an option. And suddenly, for the first time, I was faced with being homeless. That's when I found Volunteers of America. Being homeless and broke was extremely difficult for me. I thought I was better than the rest of the men in the facility. After all, I'd had good jobs before. I never did hard drugs. When I went to college, I was full of pride and ego. I wasn't humble enough to accept the help that I really, really needed. So I left. I made a plan. I moved in with a friend and got my CDL license. I was going to be a truck driver and make lots of money and get back on my feet, or so I thought. But you know what they say, God will keep giving you the same lessons until you learn to listen. Soon history began to repeat itself. My job at the trucking company ended, and before I knew it, I was homeless and living at the Volunteers of America Veterans Resource Center again. In retrospect, I now know that God had just been guiding my steps, and He would get me to where I needed to be, where I am now. And just like my first time at VOA, I wasn't ready to listen. I was just biding my time. I was working on my plan and still ignoring God's plan for me. I remember going to morning meditation sessions. I would sit in the back and catch up on my sleep. I thought to myself, they can make me go to this meeting, but they can't make me like it, nor can they make me listen and pay attention. Then one day I did pay attention, and a funny thing happened. I didn't have a good day, I had a great day. And who knew if you started your day with positive energy, it would set the tone for the rest of your day. So things started turning around. I was able to find housing and a job working security at a local church. My life wasn't perfect, but I could pay my rent and help my children with college. Eventually, I even got a car. Because life is expensive, I had to get a second job. I find myself back at Volunteers of America, but this time as an employee. I have become a part-time resident monitor at VOA in addition to my full-time employment. During one of my shifts at Volunteers of America, I witnessed something I can honestly say changed me. I was sitting at the monitoring station, and there was a client from our emergency shelter who was having trouble maneuvering his walker through the front door. I saw the program director hold the door for this man, simple enough, right? And I'm sure anyone in this room would have done the same thing. The elderly man thanked him and joked about how he liked his shoes. This particular program director always had very nice shoes, and he was known for it. The program director surprised me when without hesitation he bent down, took off his shoes, and gave them to this man. He gave him his shoes, and I was humbled in that very moment. I never shared that story, especially with the program director. I never told him about the impact that it had on my life. So last week when I did see him, I did tell him. And because I'm so thankful for that moment, I might add he had on nice shoes that day too. To whom much is given, much is required. Because of him at that moment, I truly knew what that meant. I do need to say that he was extremely influential. When I saw that, I knew I just wanted to work with Volunteers of America. And so I did. For much of my life, I did a lot of taking and not much giving. I began to look back at all those misfortunes that seemed to be repeating themselves, and I realized that they were lessons I was finally willing to learn. Volunteers of America was where I was meant to be, and I knew it. Not much later, I became a full-time resident monitor, and then I became a peer educator, which I am today. That means I now run the same monitoring morning meditation group that years ago I begrudgingly went to every morning. And I love sitting in group with my students, whom I call my friends. I tell them consistently that I was where they are. I tell them I understand it's easy to be overwhelmed by negativity and hopelessness, especially when you think there's no light at the end of what you're going through. I also tell them to learn from my story and know that God doesn't play favorites. Their blessing is next. After all, my blessings were possible because of you. You gave me shelter when I needed it most. You gave me tools to help me turn my life around. And here you are today giving more blessings. The greatest gift that Volunteers of America gave me can't be measured with money. I was given purpose. When I look in the mirror, I like the man I see looking back. I see a man who gives first and takes last. And I finally learned to serve. And today, I believe if you are a giver, God will give to you. So thank you so much for giving so much to me, and I'll keep paying it forward every day.